Live?
Somebody look. Somebody help. Jack, help.
I don't see it.
And then look at the chat as you're live on the right side.
Are they live? I don't know. I can't.
Yeah, you're live. So,
Oh, you are live. You see them?
No, on the right side, go back to your chat icon area.
Okay. Wait. Yeah. Click that. Can you see if they're live right now? Are they live? It says end stream. It says that they're.
Yeah. Okay, but.
It says live.
Yo.
Yeah, and then click on that. Right there. Leave it right there. Yeah, you're live.
And you.
Message it in, right?
So,
Somebody said all red dog said what's up.
nice.
Oh, so we are live.
Okay,
cool.
so we're on.
3-pack
What up?
1995 said.
What's going on?
What up,
familia?
Alienated
Okay.
Podcast? Here we are. Today instead of having a pause, one of our members had to, he had an obligation that he had to take care of. And that's Armando. So Armando will not be here today, but we're working things out. Now we got our reference. And the chat's over there, right? On that side?
Yeah.
You can't switch it to this side?
Let me see.
So we're just working out the technical difficulties. Shout out Natasha for helping us out. Thank you so
Real
much.
shout out in the shot.
Yeah, man, here we are. LA Natives, we made it happen. There's no break in our move here. I'm forgetting something. I told myself that I feel more comfortable when I wear shades for some reason. And that's got to fix that. So now that we're on live, you see how crucial Armando is. So
For real.
shout out Armando. Enjoy your quinceañera. But here we are, Alienated Podcast. We're just waiting on Daniel to get the link, I believe. And then maybe we can officially start. But what's up with the chat there?
We got some people coming in.
Who
Shout
is
out Al
that?
Red Dog.
Nice.
Says, what's up? Repoc 1995. It's live.
Nice. Right on.
George Cannon. Shouts out from Southeast LA. What's good, brother?
George.
Bogsy Mogs. What's good? LA
Bugsy.
Natives.
I haven't heard from you
Rich.
for a while.
What's going on, brother?
How you guys doing?
Let's go. Let's see.
Let me text Daniel real quick, too. Sorry for the kind of lag in the podcast, but we'll get it ready to go.
Mondo's in the chat, too.
No way. Mondo. Crazy Mondo. Yeah, man. So I decided not to put a pause into the podcast because I felt like, people show up in the chat and they want to express themselves about current events or, want to know in-depth things that we know about our culture. So, I try to put a team together real quick. And like I said, shout out Natasha for helping us out. We're using her laptop. Shout out Sky for being here.
Of course.
And shout out to the chat, man. Look at them. They're already, showing us love, putting in the comments and whether that, I don't get a chance to actually read them sometimes, but I'm trying to figure it out so that I get to see what you guys are saying. So I'm trying to work this phone thing out. But yeah, man. So what's up with you, Sky? How you been?
Just chilling, brother. Time is moving by so fast.
Absolutely. And then it's crazy, like, we're going through so much shifting in terms of the politics part of things.
That's right.
Now it's starting to get real for people about the decision that the country made in electing this individual. And right off the bat, I was very concerned because of the person that he put into the border, as the borders are, because he was very cold. He had no feeling for anyone, and he was gonna. The senators were, I guess questioning him for some reason, and he just answered them like a Nazi would answer a Jewish person, like back in World War II, And then it hit me for real. Then I was like, whoa.
It's getting real now.
Now it's getting real.
Yeah.
It's getting real. Super real. You know, because either you're going to, you know how they say, you know, well, you're voting, either way, you're going to get screwed, right? If you vote for Kamala Harris or if you vote for, you know,
Or for Trump.
Or
Yeah.
Trump. Sorry, I'm getting texts while I'm doing podcasts, but there you go. Thank you. Look, if the outcome would have been on the Kamala Harris side of things, don't think that things would have gotten better. Things would not have gotten better because they have a global agenda. In other words, they're going to lock down the people, control the ports, control whether we go, like it's more on the COVID side of things. You know what I mean? Where the WHO has a lot of power. I know recently they put in, they were trying to pass legislation that would give the World Health Organization, power over when there's a pandemic in your country. So in other words, if there's a pandemic in your country, they have the power to go, okay, shut everyone down.
Yeah.
It's not government. It wasn't elected. There isn't no more, you know, and that was just legislation that was being introduced. So if Kamala Harris would have gone in, or that camp would have gotten in, we would have gone that direction. But the other side of the coin isn't better. You know, now you have a nationalist version of it. And on the nationalist side, it's a little bit more dangerous because that's when people become empowered to hurt others just because they're of another race. You know, and recently, you know, all this race stuff started to boil up because I seen this, I don't know if you've seen this guy, but they were saying that in Europe, I guess there's a soccer team, an Israeli soccer team, and they started going buck wild on Arabs in Amsterdam.
I didn't hear about this.
Yeah, so there was a soccer game in Amsterdam, and it happened to be an Israeli soccer team, and they just started going buck wild on the Arabs that lived in Amsterdam, and I guess some people in Amsterdam had flags, you know, hanging out of their window or whatever. You know, they had flags for, you know, representing Palestine. I'm sorry, did I say Amsterdam? I meant Palestine. And they were climbing the houses and pulling down the flags, and you know, yeah, it was crazy. You can look it up. Just look up Israeli soccer team Amsterdam. I'm sure that'll pop up the report. And then I saw this other social media post where there was an individual, and one of the famous pundits or news person was questioning, I guess, an ex-Navy SEAL who turned into just like not a Trumper, but somebody like that's a realist, you know, it's kind of questioning the government, and he's an ex-Navy SEAL, so he's very emboldened to say things. And he was just going, you know, I think that the Jays, we'll call them the Jays, you know, without, you know, offending anyone, because talk is not to offend anyone, it's to be informed, it's to see what the climate of the world is, right? And for us, we have to be understanding where, for them, it's a very different time. It's a very different time for those of European descent, because those individuals from Europe had their 500 years, and now it's over. Now it's starting to change into a worldview, into people of color. And it doesn't mean just because they're people of color, they're going to have your best interest or anybody's best interest, because they're still rich. They still feel like they have power. It's more like you're giving back the peasants to the other king who has that king mentality, right? Or emperor, whatever it is. They still kind of following that Roman hierarchy, right? That's all that's happening. But at the same time, the consciousness is starting to elevate.
People are becoming more aware of what's going on around them, for sure.
Kind of like you, where I feel like, you're a very mature 26-year-old. 26-year-olds are not, spiritually dedicated in a certain way to their diet, or any of that nature. You know what I mean? Like you take serious steps, and that tells me that the next 7 generations, like, what are your kids going to be like? Right? They're not. I don't see you just going into shit and starting doing heroin, or you know what I mean, or start doing some major drugs that is going to affect what our ancestors called the next 7 generations. So we're on these steps to improving the next 7 generations as this European. I don't know how to even describe the amount of torture they put the earth through. You know what I mean? They've been through, like, when you even think of like the Holy Crusades and all the shit that happened there, and then to come to the Americas and meet people who live off of the land and nature and share and don't feel threatened by encountering other individuals, even if they look scary or they're not very hygienically, I don't know how to call that either. I mean, when you start thinking about European history and culture, there was no hygiene involved.
Yeah.
And so and I don't mean to bring that up to make people feel bad about that. I'm bringing it up because we had a certain custom. I'm not saying that we smell like flowers and roses either. I mean, we lived off of nature, but bathing was a big part of things. We knew that certain oils and certain scents mixed and was actually helpful to you. It's a healthy thing to be that way. But, they brought a lot of customs, and all those customs are coming to an end. This is where we're at. Now, just because it comes to an end doesn't mean that, we get handed houses and we have all the resources and the know-how to continue to thrive, right? And this is why it's so important that when we say land back, or when we say any of these connections to the land, what does that mean? Is it just some sort of fancy word like Nike's Just Do It? Or does it actually mean something to you? When you say land back, like, what does that mean? Do you go sit in nature for an hour or 2, 3 hours? Maybe go camping by yourself? I don't know. What does it mean to be land back? We can't just say it anymore, because the end of their society is coming. And if the end of their society comes, they have enough money and resources and people that will take care of them. That's why they have underground bunkers and, very fancy spaces to go, like, boats that they can live on for months at a time. But what about the poor people? What about the poor people that got left with the trash? See, land back starts to take a different meaning, right? Land back starts to mean now, oh shit, I have to actually know what it's like to live in the wintertime on the land. It's not like, oh, I'm going to have a house and I'm going to have a heater and I'm going to have all the conveniences of colonial living. So what does it mean? Right? What does it mean? Land back. These are the times, because if we're trying to fight Trump and his authoritarian version of ruling us, then what is going to be the answer to that? We can't just stay idle. We can't just go, okay, cool, they're going to deport everybody. What is going to be the strategy for us as a community to bind together and be creative as possible to confront individuals who don't have a heart? Man, that dude, I forgot his name. Do you know his name?
Who?
The newly appointed border czar.
Is it the old one, or the old one was Tom Holman or something?
No, it's the new one that he just appointed from
Okay,
his reelection.
I haven't been paying attention.
Tom Haas or something like that. I think he had an agent.
The new one was Tom, or the old one was Tom Holman or something, and he
Right.
was.
Oh yeah, that's him. That's him.
He said if Trump got elected, he would be.
And he did get reelected, and now he's saying crazier things, right? Because they're asking him, well, how do you deport fathers who have children in the United States, he's all easy. You deport all of them. Simple. I'm not going to go just because you're a citizen and you're not a citizen, you get to stay here. I mean, crazy Nazi things. Right? Now, he's also saying this new borders are that they're going to go after we'll call them the bad guys from Mexico, who start with the C. I don't want to say it because, I don't want to get mixed up with that. You can't, it's really sticky when you even mention them. But those that traffic illegal substances to the U.S. who are of Mexican descent, now they're starting to threaten. You know what I mean? Like, they're starting to threaten them. That was unheard of. I've never heard in my lifetime a U.S. president threaten Mexico. Right? That's not, and I know why they're doing it, because Mexico has ties with Russia and China. So they're playing their political games, but I'm going back and forth because we're heading into some very serious times. But this is what we asked for so long as Indigenous people. We asked for this. We asked for the fall of Rome. We asked for the fall of political structures that are unfair to everyone. I'm not asking for the fall of government or the fall of any country. I'm asking for the fall of individuals who make bad decisions, and it affects large populations. It's very common sense.
To say something?
Sure.
Again, I always quote what Dakota told me, and I was very frustrated being up north with the politics that are going on there, and it's become very unaffordable and unlivable. And I was very stressed out, the anxiety that the media puts on you. And I was talking to him about this, and he was like, I don't worry about that. I was just like, oh, he's so I'm like, what do you mean? Like, look what the prime minister's doing. Look what I don't worry about that. It's like, those are fragile systems. They'll be dismantled. They've been here, a few hundred years? Mm-hmm. My people, they've been here for thousands. And we'll be here for thousands more.
There you go.
So I think,
that's it.
Well, it's a tactic, right?
But are we there, though? That's the question. Are we there? Yeah. Are we? I know Dakota's there. I know that Dakota, and I think when he says that, he feels like, I'm ready for the challenge. I'm ready that if the lights turn off, we turn to the fire.
I see what you're saying.
The ceremonies and that we have faith in that, right? Do we have that as a community, as those that are just trying to start to understand their indigeneity? Are you That's why I emphasize so much on this podcast to practice things, whatever it is. Doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be indigenous. Doesn't have to be anything. Just practice something. Practice vegetarianism. Practice veganism. Practice meditation. Practice exercising. Practice with your diet. Practice something. Connect to the land. Now that's letting go of the comforts of the city. Because the minute you start walking into the mountain, or the minute you start walking into the desert, it's either going to get really hot or really cold. That's its communication to you. Now, I hope I'm staying on topic in terms of what I'm trying to say, that there's some very serious times that we're facing because of the decision that the masses had to elect an authoritarian president. There's no way of saying it in any other way. He's not as extreme as North Korea, but now the U.S. has moved into an authoritarian president. Let's just say it. That's what's happening.
Well, what about, do you guys think, I always think that there's the wolf, let's say Trump, and the wolves in sheep's clothing, which is the Democratic Party, because they're under the guise of saying that they're better and they're helping the people. But if you look at the Baltimore, Chicago, Detroit, 50 years each run Democrat, and they're some of the poorest folks of color, like places that are not, like Nancy Pelosi's father was, I believe, the mayor of Baltimore, like it's entrenched. And I think what I've been learning is that these are colonial systems, and either side, they're not gonna work. They say they're advanced, and what I look at is like people that have been living here for thousands of years, taking care of the land, and having all these different tribes all over here, all over Turtle Island, and how they're able to live
But
for
right
thousands
now,
of years. And now I see what you're saying right now,
but
but I
right
feel it will
this second-
self-destruct. And I think, yeah, how do you folks, the indigenous
Well,
folks, stay together? Yeah.
luckily, look, this is the way I see it. These are just opinions, right? You know, some people don't think it's a big deal that Trump's in office. Some people go, "Wow, no one's killing you, or no one's putting you in jail." But it's not necessarily Trump. It's the people he's appointing. The people he's appointing are he's taking a corporate, even though the U.S. is a corporation, he's taking a very, how can I say this? Egotistical way of running the government. Like he's going, I'm the head, and I'm appointing Sky. And Sky, if you hear anything, you let me know. And I'm appointing you. And if you hear anything, let me know. This was what the whole Doge, or whatever the thing with Elon Musk was about. You know, running government more efficiently, and this and that and the other, and cutting the fat. And all that is, hey, I'm going to give you the power to tell me what the fuck they're doing. And if they're fucking having this and that, you let me know, because I'm going to go there. This is an authoritarian. This is the first time the U.S. is going to go through this. An authoritarian way of living. We have to prepare. Now, does that mean it's the end for everything and everyone? I don't think so. It doesn't happen overnight. It creeps its way in, I feel. I mean, I know that communist China didn't turn overnight. You know what I mean? So we're switching over to an authoritarian. And now the scary part is, okay, we voted one authoritarian individual now. Who's going to be the next one? And is it going to get more authoritarian? Are we going to allow that? It's kind of like what Immortal Technique says in one of his songs. We're trading our comfort. We're giving away our rights for comfort, right? This is the type of governments they want to put into place. What is the flip? Because it's not just one side of a coin. They don't get to go, oh, this is the way it's going to be. Only if we believe in it. Only if we put the energy into it. That's why Dakota Bear said that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put my energy into trying to solve a system that was brought here to hurt me and to...
But that also will self-destruct itself.
Exactly.
I mean, if it's already not working, it's not been working since it was implemented. And you look at UK, look at that imperialist, massive colonial, it's in such like peril right now. You know, it's like, I think maybe this is a good thing. This is the decline of Western colonized civilization. And this can be a rebirth, or this can be the fact that Indigenous folks are here and they have their traditions and they have their ways. You know, up north, like, you know, we have our friends like go and hunt deer and they fish and they, you know, bring that to the community and feed the people. And I think the resilience that I see, because I was taken away, the boarding schools, the, you know, residential schools, and it was trying to, you know, kill the Indian, save the child, like these things, but cannot be taken away from you folks. And I can say for myself, non-Indigenous, the medicine that the community has given me and the beauty of being welcomed and to come to some of these gatherings and to just see and take part and how much it's helped me. It's so powerful. It's just...
But it's a long road back. And I think what we have to start understanding and facing is that it's not... we have to erase the good and bad thing. That, oh, look how bad they treated us. So that either we're going to be in a victimized and then still compromised way going, okay, well, what's your solution for our problems?
It's getting rid of the victim mentality.
Yeah, it's taking responsibility for like, okay, cool, fuck, dude, this is what happened to my people. Now, if I go back, if I just turn my head to the left a little, and I look at the ways, maybe not 50 years back, but 100 years back, 100 plus back, how did they run their systems? What did they eat? What did they focus on? 200, 300, 400 years back. We have to go past this chunk of time where individuals just, like, we don't even know how. Right now it says, okay, in 1492 they came and they conquered us. That's a narrative that they wrote. We don't know the truth. We don't know that it took them, it could have been, we don't know if our people fought for what they call 400 Gregorian years with these guys.
Yeah.
You know, until finally, at one point, there wasn't enough. It sounds too romanticized to go, oh yeah, here's my flag, you know, here's my disease, now we own you. That doesn't give any room for our heroes. It doesn't give any room for the stories that come from us. And see, the stories that come from us don't get whittled down into humans. They're just times and energies that take over the land that we live on. That's what we've come to realize. When you understand the mandate of the last Tlatoani that spoke, his name was Cuauhtemoc, he said 500 years of darkness, but after 500 years of darkness, we will start to remember. He's not talking about an ideology. He's not talking about a doctrine. There were no written doctrines. He was talking about our placement in nature. Eventually, the seed will pop and the plant will grow. What do I mean by that? Land back. What do I mean by land back? Connections. Deep connections. Private connections that a human must have. I know I've had them myself. It feels kind of weird to do them when you do it at first, where you put your hand on the earth and you kind of try to understand each other. That's the connections that our grandfathers had. And this is what I mean by going 100 years back, then 50 years back, or 60 years back, or 20 years back. We have to go further back. And then, you know, books help. They're good references. But I think when you start to connect with one's inner self through the inner genetic memory, through our blood memory, guided by our ceremonies, guided by our interactions with individuals, we'll understand. If we go hundreds of years back, not 50, don't go back to the time where you were a slave or you were conquered or you were mistreated. Don't go back to that time. Inside your blood, there's a time where that didn't exist. It was a different type of challenge. It was more the challenge of Mother Earth or the predators that lived in the jungle or the insects that had poison. Different challenges. It wasn't easier. And probably was harder. Because right here we have, you know, exterminators. You know, we have buildings.
Yeah.
We have janitors. We have people that will clean our apartment for us. You know, what I mean by connecting is ceremony. And what I mean by ceremony is testing the fear that you have of the unknown. It's not gathering sage. That's your own personal ceremony. I'm not trying to discredit that ceremony. But when you go in front of leaders who have suffered, or not suffered, but have put themselves like sun dancers or people that run sweat lodges, and our ways were not easy. But when we go back to those challenges, then we open up our vision to how we connect to this earth, how we connect to the water, how we connect to the air and the fire. We have a lifelong journey on trying to figure that out because all we are is elements. And we're creative. It's just, what are we creating? Are we creating something on a colonial side of things? Or are we closing our eyes and reaching back so far and touching the hands of our grandfathers? They didn't put their mathematical systems, their spiritual systems and ceremonies, their mathematical and their art focus for nothing. It was to point out star positions. It was to point out how these stars affect us on Earth. These are what the sacred codices are. It's to remind you that Venus is in a certain position over a certain structure that gives certain energy. I believe this is land back. It's not, I own these acres. Here's the paper that proves it. I don't think that's land back. We have to go further. Where there were no deeds. I don't believe we had deeds back in the times of the Maya and the Mexica. We didn't have land deeds. We had, hey, I live on this part to this part. Don't cross that line.
Yeah, well, I think that the difference is like, because we live in such a material world and we get so caught up in like the money making and the house and just the American dream. Like, it's easy to just get caught up in that and want to do for oneself in that way and want to build for one's family. And, you know, this is the way we're brought up as Americans. But I think the true meaning, of, at least for myself, when it comes to land back is owning oneself, knowing oneself. And I think what you brought up some good points, brother. Really having the disciplines spiritually to seek for oneself. And I think for everybody that's different. I don't think there's an exact way, you know, but I think the importance of seeking something beyond oneself and really looking within oneself for a deeper meaning other than these materialistic ways. Because when we look at the European way, that's what it's about, right? These land deeds, how to just this greed, right? But I think for myself, what I've learned is really how to dig within oneself and look at one's issues and work on oneself that way, to really cleanse and purify oneself in that way. And it's not easy, you know, it's a difficult process. But it's an everyday process. And I think when one can begin to do that, then things become more simple and you're not really being tugged and pulled by the calamities of this world, whether it's politics, whether it's what's going on outside, whether it's what's going on anywhere in the world. I mean,
people really stressed out about that.
Yeah, and that's, you know, I sense that this election.
As they should, because we did switch into a...
Yeah, I think it's good to be aware of what's going on, for sure, but it's not healthy to be pulled in that way of like the anxiety and the fear to live in fear because of one individual running things this way or this way, you know. We have no control. Yeah, sure, we can vote, but I think ultimately we have the control of ourselves.
Let's talk about the vote, bro. I mean, the vote, look, if anyone thinks that their vote mattered, it doesn't. That's called the popular vote. When you go and sign up and you take your fucking time and you go and vote, and they count that as the popular vote. Now, that popular vote is to assist the Electoral College, who are anonymous voters and are not obligated to follow the popular vote. So in other words, that's when George Bush won the presidency, because he didn't win the popular vote. He won the electoral college vote, right? But the electoral, you don't see the picture of the person that went, hey, I voted for fucking Bush, and it's all anonymous. What does that tell you? It tells you everything. When you look at the way this supposed democracy works in above this Turtle Island land right here, I don't even want to say their country's name. I mean, just don't. I think their time is so done, because who doesn't realize that anonymous votes can't be tracked? And then they start distracting you with going, hey, everybody's fucking the polls up, and the polls, and they didn't count the polls when the polls don't even matter. The popular vote does not matter. It does not matter. The electoral college matters. Who are the electoral college? We don't know. Well, then we're picking things from people we don't. You know what I mean? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Okay, well then we take it a step further. They have to be connected to the families and the oligarchs that run the big industries, oil, tech, entertainment, whatever it is. Whatever it is in the whatever industry they're connected to. That's who really picks what's going to happen. Those families do. And there's no way to go, okay, well, I'm going to research who was the electoral college vote guy, and I want to know what family he's connected to. There's no way of knowing, at least to my knowledge, that you can't find out who are these voters of the electoral college, right? And then certain states get a certain number and certain states don't.
Yeah.
Some states are super fucking small and they get all kinds of votes. That just tells me that families are placed in certain places to make sure that those in power are still following the people that actually own this country. You know what I mean? Like everybody's tripping on Elon Musk, right? Well, I'm sure he's connected to one of those 13 families, right? That's all that is. But we get all excited with, oh, this guy and blah, blah, blah. Those that are in power come from a very few amount of people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think your phone's on Bluetooth. Turn your Bluetooth.
Check 1 2. Do you guys hear me?
Yo.
We can hear you, brother.
Oh, there's a phone call to.
We got
show.
somebody that
It's me, Mondo.
Mondo.
Oh, Mondo.
Oh.
Yo, what's up, guys? Hey, Natasha's doing great. I want to chime in. Appreciate the audience. Appreciate the chat. Look, guys, we're in a massive battle here.
Nice.
Apparently, the right, they're super excited, Zero.
Yeah.
They're thinking Trump is going to save the world. They're thinking Trump is going to save their asses.
No way.
They're thinking this is the greatest time in the history of the universe, right, Sky?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, dude. We're going into an authoritarian government. What does that mean? I don't know. Is it going to be
Right.
Is it going to be
their excuse to us or to you, Zero, to say, hey, look, the country voted on it, so you have no say, right?
But yeah, right. Come on, bro. This is not the 60s. This is not the 60s anymore. I mean, some individuals are very serious about protecting this country. Look at what happened the last time they voted him out, right? And the march to the Capitol and all that stuff, right? Is it going to be just for social media? Or are these fools, once they start clamping down on things, kind of like, okay, here's an example. People are getting laid off and people are not getting Christmas bonuses because of the tariffs that he's bringing. Yet they were hardcore Trumpers. So now these hardcore Trumpers are getting told by their bosses, hey, you know what? I'm about to fucking lay you off.
Your audio and video recording device for your safety.
Right? And then so if that's
Are you an extra one for the list?
if that's the case, can you lower him? Just a little bit. Hello? Yeah. Anyways. Oh, higher is a little bit. He's talking. Hello?
Yeah. Check 1 2.
Just a little bit more. Sorry. Natasha's doing great. She's just learning.
Yeah. This is awesome, guys.
But I mean, these were serious topics that we kind of needed to discuss today because, you know, when you hear the borders are, Armando, I mean, what is your take on that, dude? Because you haven't.
Look, dude, this guy is already implementing, he's canceling the whole anchor baby law, which means I'm a motherfucking anchor baby.
Whoa.
So am I going to get fucking deported? Because all these self-hating Mexicans and Latinos that voted for this guy, they just got the rub down, right? Right, Sky?
Yeah, bro. Like they really got duped, man. Because if they're voting, like that's another scenario, Armando, where someone said, "Yeah, man, I voted for Trump because of this and that and the immigration, and we need to get that." And he's all, "Oh yeah, did you hear the dude's not gonna have you're no more anchor babies, no more this, no more that?" And he's like, "Oh wait, my cousin's like that, right? Does that mean my cousin's gonna go? Yeah, it means your fucking cousin's gonna go. Your fucking cousin's gone by somebody at that border czar has no heart. I mean, that dude might as well be a fucking SS ranking general."
Look, zero. This guy, he calls people illegal aliens. That's all he does. He has no other definition of illegal migrants as anything else. At this point, that's going to be the word for the next 4 years. Illegal aliens, bro. That's how easy it is to convince these white people that we're from a whole different fucking planet, bro.
I've never heard them say they're gonna deport actual legal citizens. You know what I mean? You know when that the senator, I forgot, OC, whatever they call her. You know what that senator is?
No.
Horacio.
AOC.
There you go. AOC. She's asking him. So you're telling me that you're gonna? Is there a way to? How are you gonna deport families if they have? Like if their mom is illegal, but their children are from here? He's all, it's easy. We take all of them.
Yeah.
All of them go. No talking, no appeal, nothing. Go, bye.
Which is honestly the easiest answer to say, right? If he's so cutthroat and brutal. Like, you're right, Zero. There's no sympathy.
Yeah.
It's zero tolerance at this point. Zero tolerance, right?
And that's what he said. Zero tolerance. And not only that, but this is the dude that implemented the kids in cages, right? This is the same guy. Right? I think it's the same dude that implemented the kids in cages. So,
Yeah, that was.
Oh, okay.
He's been in Homeland for 30 years, is what he says. So
Yeah.
he's been under every
or the separation of something. I think he's responsible for like the first version when Trump was in office, when they started separating the children from the families. I think he's responsible for that. That's what I meant.
Right, but his point, to go back with AOC, he was like, "Well, look, if you're accusing me of separation of families, if an American citizen gets pulled over, gets a DUI, and he has his kids with them, they separate the kid. If the fucking husband or wife gets into domestic violence and they get arrested, they separate the kid. So what's the fucking difference?" And the AOC's like, "Well, you're comparing migrants to criminals."
Right.
And he's like, "Nah, they are criminals. They're breaking the fucking law because they're coming here illegally."
Wow.
You know?
And then she's trying to point out that they're seeking asylum, right?
Yeah.
And they're seeking asylum because the U.S. is going over there, sending paramilitary troops, and then fucking up their countries, making them cool. Like like what the U.S. has their hands in Venezuela and all these other places, and that's
And
why.
keep in mind, right? So everything that he's fucking saying, all the voters that got Trump in, they agree with that shit.
Until it starts to become, you know what I mean? It starts to become authoritarian. It's like I think people read about the internment camps that the Japanese had to suffer during World War I or II. The U.S. took all the Japanese citizens, put them in internment camps,
Yeah,
took
that
their
was
land, took
during
their
World War
houses
II.
during World War II, right? We read about that and we go, oh, damn, that's fucked up. But wait till they start doing that shit now, right? Huh? Yeah, sure. Just put your mic on.
What they did in Canada recently, because Canada said messed up.
I don't think it's.
Muted myself.
There you go.
Hi, thank you for allowing me to jump in. What they did in Canada, and they're pretty quiet about it, is before, during the Conservative government, they had you had to have a visa if you were from Mexico. You had to apply for a visa to come up, which was pretty racist. And since we technically kind of share a border, right, borders, then it switched over to the Liberal government, and they decided they were going to get rid of that, so folks could come up and not have to get a visa. Recently, migrants were to avoid the C word, to avoid all the destitute and bad things that come. They realized they could fly from Mexico City up to Canada, and they would walk down to New York. Now, only a few, not very many folks are doing that, but as soon as they started doing that, the Liberal government reenacted visas. And he's saying that he's not racist at all. And they literally put visas back in place this recently. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, well, they'll never have our interest in mind, and their job is to control the population, right? And to extract as much resource and what they call money out of this. What we understand is the life-giving source, Mother Earth. This is what I'm trying to put out in the community is to take the time and take those moments outside, because they're trying to disconnect you and trying to tell you what to do. When we already know that the ancestors said that the frequencies of the earth are really high now. You think we're just coming into consciousness just because? We're not coming into consciousness just because. We're not opposed to genocide just because. The frequency of the planet is alive. When the planet is feeling distressed, it'll send out vibrations. That changes the hearts, it changes everything inside of us. This is not just because. Our planet is talking to us. And it's not saying to save us, it's saying stop hurting yourselves. Stop hurting yourselves. I will be here way longer. I was here before you. I'm going to be here longer than you. Stop hurting yourself. We can't take the position that we're going to save a planet. We can't save a planet. It made us. We didn't make it.
That's right, but we can save oneself.
We can save that. What's important is to save. It's kind of like, if we lived as roommates and I was, taking a poop everywhere and didn't clean up my dishes and, pissing on everywhere, you'd be like, hey, bro, what the fuck's wrong with you, man? That's the way the white man, and I don't mean not the white man, that's the way the colonials came in here. Shitting and pissing on everything. And we said, stop. And they got upset and offended. But it was so long ago. All we have to reference is our system of calendar, like our way of taking note of time, what people call calendars. Now all that's starting to come into question. People are starting to say, well, why are we following a Gregorian calendar based on Roman Catholic, I think it's based off of a Roman Catholic, either priest or, do you know where it's based off of?
What is it?
The Gregorian calendar. Why do we follow the Gregorian calendar? Because that's when, when we shift time, right? It has 12 months, where in ancient calendar, in the ancient calendars, there's 13 months because we go off of the lunar, the 28 days.
Yeah.
It's not 30 and 31. Gregorian time is so off. So just think about that alone. They have to shift into an authoritarian type rulership because the frequency of the earth is getting too high. Too many people are waking up to the lies. Like, why do we have to follow a Gregorian calendar? These calendars make more sense. These calendars are more connected to nature. Immersing yourself on those things that are connected to the seasonal changes, is another way of taking that approach of land back. Land back has to be more than, I want the land that I'm going to live on. Because if you don't know how to live on it, then you know what I mean? Like when they shut off all the lights, if they ever shut off all the lights, which I doubt they'll ever do, if they ever do that, would we know what to do? Now, luckily, we come from a lineage that ingrained the connection between the earth and human. This is why our ceremonies are so deep, and and that's why the use of our medicinal plants reveals so much. Because we have thousands and thousands of years of practice. Ayahuasca, hikuri, all these medicinal plants. I mean, now they're being taken recreationally, right? But we developed a system of understanding and a relationship with these particular medicines. These are not things that we just take just because. They're guides. Sometimes they take a whole lifetime to decipher that one experience with them. This is how sacred they are. But we're in that time where people are so tired of it that they'll ingest as much as they can,
Right. No, because, I think that's a good point. I think a lot of things, the essence of it has been lost. Like you kind of said, like it's more of a recreational thing or just a thing to help one escape, right? I think a lot of people take things now just as a means of escaping, or out of fear, but understanding the practices behind things and understanding the essence of things, I think
with Hollywood, they romanticize everything. And I think they got to a point where they romanticize the version of a shaman. But if you were picked as a shaman in your community, you were destined to be alone. It's a lot of isolation in becoming a healer and a shaman. Because you're the one that has to be responsible about going into the spiritual world and coming back. So it takes a lot of isolation to do that. And nowadays, we're in a new ager kind of way. Some people are new ager in that way. And they're doing it every weekend. They're doing it over and over again. It's kind of like they're taking Tylenol and they're just taking the whole bottle. They're not taking the prescription amount, right? Mm. Those plants are so powerful, they let you see the creator. And then you take away that experience and you're trying to explain it to someone. But how do you explain the creator? This is why our ancestors didn't even try. When you talk to an elder, from whenever I talk to an elder, they never tried to describe the creator. It's so magnificent, it's so giving, it's so loving. It's like we can't conceptualize it. We're just experiencing it as a human. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It's because it's one of those things that it's beyond words, right? Like once I can put it in my words, but once I put it in my words, it's not that anymore.
Yeah.
It's my version of that.
Exactly. And it's our own personal experiences. This is what our life is. So how do we navigate through that when other systems are trying to dominate our personal world, our personal reality, right? This is what it means when you go, oh, well, now Trump is the president. What does that mean for me? Now, I can only give my opinion, but I know one thing. Living in nature was difficult. It was far more difficult than navigating racist, uneducated, unrooted individuals in power. Learning how to live through a drought or learning how to connect with the elements to call rain during the drought. You know how they always say that the medicine man could bring rain. I don't know if you've ever heard that.
Yeah.
When I used to go to the reses, they used to say, oh yeah, the medicine man, he's really powerful. He can call the rain. And what he does is he has a relationship with the water that lives inside of him. And so the water that lives outside of him listens to him when he talks to it. Now that takes isolation,
Right.
focus, meditation, dedication, commitment, lineages on how to do that. You see, this system tries to synthetically do it because they do that. They do affect the weather. They affect the weather. And then they create these hurricanes or whatever it is by affecting the weather through chemicals and maybe some explosives and maybe some radio frequencies. They'll affect the weather. They do not control the weather. They don't have the power to control the weather, but they can affect it. I do believe they can. But they don't connect with the weather. Very different.
Yeah, that was like I remember I think a year ago in Dubai, they had the weather clouds, and I don't know if you saw that on the news.
Yeah,
but the city was like all this rain, and it was flooding, and it was like
because they were blowing out a certain chemical, and they were trying to make that area, grow vegetation. I don't know what they were trying to affect the weather. They didn't connect with the weather. They didn't have their shamans go into the desert and ask the sands, how do we make plants grow here? I'm sure that the sands will respond to them. This is the connections that old world medicine people or medicine perspectives had. They connected versus going, we got to stop climate change. Like, if we have the power to do that, we don't have the power to affect it. This is the world, man. This is a huge. Now, we can affect areas. Yes, we can fuck up streams. Yes, we can fuck up rivers. Yes, we can fucking pollute the land that we live in, 50, 60-mile radiuses. But I think that we can't get ahead of ourselves in understanding just because we see a picture of Mother Earth, we know how big she is. We don't. It's big. It's huge. It's kind of like a baby going, oh, I'm gonna take care of my mom when she's changing your diaper, when she's putting you up to her breast to feed. This is the earth. The earth is doing that to us. So when we take that perspective that we're going to save the earth or that we can affect the earth. Now, again, don't get me wrong. We can affect the areas we live in. But I'm talking about the earth. Sometimes they restrict us from certain, national parks, right? We try to go on a hike on a national park, and then there's a barrier. There's nope. You can't cross this line. Anyone cross this line, blah, 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 is restricted, could go to jail, blah, blah, blah. What are they hiding? When it comes to wilderness, we should be able to go as far as we want. And if it takes our life, well, that was our decision. But now they restrict us from these points. I know there's places in the Grand Canyon that they don't let us hike into. As a matter of fact, one of these podcasters was saying that he was able to, because he was like an archaeologist or whatever, or his name is Billy Carson, I think. He said that he was hiking in the Grand Canyon, in a very deep part of the Grand Canyon, and all of a sudden that he started wandering off. And that when he wandered off, there was a military officer there with the fucking gun going, "Hey, bro, where you going?" He's like, "Oh, I just wanted to, just take a little walk and maybe get away for a little bit, sit down and think." He's like, "No, this area is restricted. This isn't a national park. Why is it restricted?" For whatever reason, some people go deep and they go, "Oh, well, there's Egyptian shit there and blah, 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 and all that other stuff, or aliens." But if we start conceptualizing how big Mother Earth is, like how big is it? Just because we have our version of a map and we see that map doesn't mean we know how big it is. Because we look at the map and we go, "Oh yeah, I live in Los Angeles." And then all that grass in other areas just becomes irrelevant. Do you know what I'm saying? What do you think?
Well, what do you mean by
Like what I'm trying to say is that although governments have control of the population, if it ever got down to it, and like they say, it's the fall. When it falls, when it all crashes, because it can crash under Trump. You know what I mean? And what rich people do is they just pull out. Like the industries will just pull out of your country, and then you'll just become a poor country, and they'll just focus on other places.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to tell you guys is that the earth is a lot bigger than what they control. So land back doesn't mean getting control of the cities that they created or taking over governments that they built. It means making yourself really connected to the earth in your own way.
Yeah.
This is a power that we have to reignite inside of us. This is why Dakota Bear said that. I don't worry about them because I'm working on my connection with the earth. I'm working on my connection with the fire. Death is inevitable, but as long as my connection with the fire and the earth and humanity and my community, then all of this city dissolves and I start to live in the big earth, not the controlled earth. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Could I add one thing? Just
Sure.
Higher Knowledge, HK, had him on. He took me to the elders gathering that recently happened, and I got to see a talk with, I believe, Orville Looking Horse and his wife, and he said, the earth is the source, not a resource.
Right. It's like infinite. It's like it has a lot of resources, and we think it's in the families that are trying to control all of the population. They don't understand how infinite and abundant the earth is because they're trying to convince us that there's not enough.
I don't know if you folks have heard of this, but it's pretty dystopian when you see the government talking about climate change and how the government's really pushing it, and there's not really, they're not talking about research and development, or they're not talking to Indigenous folks who look after the biodiversity. There's a thing called NACS, Natural Asset Company, and they're trying to create a stock market or hedge funds for the natural world. And they're saying it's $1 trillion untouched industry, and we have to buy it so that we can protect it under the guise of climate change. And they're saying that they're going to work with Indigenous folks. But it's real, it's scary. I went and researched it. There's companies, Natural Asset Company. And you can go to their own websites and you can read what they're saying. They're literally trying to buy the mountains, the land, this, and divvy it up as a equity or a stock market type of thing.
This is what I'm talking about. But still, like, again, you're like, and the way I see it, my metaphor is that we live as insects in a humongous forest. The forest is the metaphor of Mother Earth, right? And we as insects are in a community. And we start seeing these other ones trying to burrow a hole through a tree, thinking that they're cutting through the earth for some reason. But they're really just burrowing through a little tree, right? In other words, they have this perception of ownership of the land so they can destroy it. But they don't realize that they destroy everything else around it. My point is, though, in terms of the insects burrowing into a tree, is if we're just kind of putting a little tiny hole on this part of the land. Because our Mother Earth is humongous. This is why I don't understand how they go, well, under climate change and under climate change. All that is I want to control you. I want to control how far you go. I want to control how much gas you use. I want to control all those things. You're not saving the planet. Because if they were really about saving the planet, they would stop fracking.
They'd ask the indigenous folks if they cared about saving the planet. They would give the platform the indigenous folks who take care of the earth, and if they cared.
Yeah, they would. And even then, and see, when we go, it's funny because, we always go to the elders for wisdom. And sometimes their wisdom is nothing. They kind of leave it up to you. What does the future mean to you? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't want to go, oh, the future should be this way. No, what is the future going to be for you? What is your vision and creativity going to be for the little kids that are coming? They're not even, they're redirecting the energy to your own decision making, your own commitments. This is why I'm reiterating the connection with land back. Land back has to mean super, that you're going to just really understand that Mother Earth gives us all that we need, and at any moment, any time, every time, she gives us everything we need if we trust her. We have to trust in her. We can't think that she's weak or that she's dying or that we need to help her or save her. Right?
Yeah.
That would be like a toddler trying to revive his mom because he fainted. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That just like the little toddler's gonna freak the fuck out. Right? If mom was ever in that condition. But as far as I know, the summer still comes, the winter still comes, the flower. I mean, I know it's affected in certain areas. I know certain animals are no longer there in those areas. But Mother Earth is big. How do we know that they didn't fucking migrate to a certain place? Just because we see documentaries, we don't know every goddamn thing. We don't know it. We act like we do, but we don't. We know every single animal in nature. We know every single animal in nature. Every single insect? We don't. We claim to. We have big books and pictures and drawings, but we don't. How big would that book be if we had every single insect, every single animal? We have a majority. Yeah, read them out loud. Yeah, read it out.
You want me to read the chat? Okay.
Read the chat.
Thank you. I might get the names wrong, but word first says the Crown still owns lands rights for most of the world. That sounds like a red herring. Maybe he's referring to the NACs.
Word first, I like that, homie.
3-pack 1995. Climate change is a hoax. They're buying out local farmers and ranchers.
There you go.
For bigger corporations, another way to control us is through our food source. How many people know how to live off the land? Another 3-pack 1995. Bill Gates is buying so much farm ranch land. And at the same time, he is producing lab-grown meat. It's all a part of the plan. Wow. Word first. The bird does not own the rhino or water. Buffalo, they simply act as a custodian and feed off its access.
That was a good one. The last one was a cool one. That was word first, right? Shout out word first. When you're using, and if I believe I heard this right, the buffalo, right? The buffalo have a certain connection with the land. They know they have like a migrating route, right? They know that, okay, if we run this way, there's a river there, we stop there for a day, then we get back on, we start running again, and we start. So I know no one taught them that. It was an instinctive connection that they had with the land and the earth to find these resources as they ran on top of it. We need to think like that. As we walk on Mother Earth, since we are creative beings, can we generate the energy, the electricity, the inspiration to solve the problems that are coming on around us? Just like the buffalo has to solve the problem about finding water on the way to this destination that his instinct is taking him. The herds of buffalo, they were connected to the land. The land spoke to them in their language. We need to be that connected because we are connected to the buffalo. We are connected to these sacred animals, the eagles, the serpents, the owls, the hawks, all of those important animals taught us something about nature, how to relate to it, not how to own it, how to control it, and how to, hypnotize the people to say, wow, well, we must follow what all these rich people are doing in terms of just giving into all Bill Gates' land buying, and it's just stupid. The minute we lose faith in the structure of finance, real estate, investments, all that's going to crash. The petrodollar's done. Other countries have resources too. This is why BRICS is important.
Someone in the chat brought up BRICS earlier.
Yeah, BRICS is challenging the petrodollar. What does that mean? That just means another oligarch family is going to fight or take on and challenge this oligarch family. And the one that, can develop the best plan to convince the population, then those are the ones that will rule. Russia's an old world country. India's an old world country. Brazil is an old world country. They just started figuring out, China, an old world country. They're just starting to go, why is England, Denmark, Germany, the United States, why are they running the show? Why are they the richest people on the earth? Right? South Africa. All of them. That's what BRICS is about. They're challenging colonial rule in general through their currency, through their policies, through their investment banking, the IMF. They're all starting to butt heads because our ancestors said there was only going to be 500 years of darkness. See, they don't know how to read time. To them, time is linear because they follow Roman structures. I'll prove it to you. Roman Gregorian calendar. That's a Roman structure. That's a linear timekeeping. They don't believe in cycles. We do. We do. And when our heart starts to beat like the buffalo, this is what I mean when you go outside and you connect to nature and you realize that you're part of it. You're just like that buffalo, except you're human now. You're having an experience of love, disappointment, fear. You're not a buffalo anymore. You're a human. It's time to take responsibility. Us humans have to take responsibility for our community around us. This is the principal rule in being Native. The community around us. Who is that? Our children, our elders, our women, our warriors. We need to be responsible for each other. I feel responsible for Sky. I'm his older brother. He's a part of my community. I walk that way. When anyone comes to my restaurant, I feel responsible for them. In a private way. What does that mean? I walk impeccably. I don't lie. I focus on my spirituality. I fast. I'm disciplined. That's why I take the minerals. This prepares me for the challenges that any reality can give me. Because I know at one point I'm going to die. But I'm going to meet every challenge that life gave me. And death is not my enemy. It's not. It's my teacher. Death is my teacher. Because when it touches me or when we meet, I'll take all the lessons that I learned in this life. Those are mine. So there's nothing to fight. Community is what we need to focus on to fight authoritarianism. Community, compassion, commitment, discipline, and love. So, where are we at with time? Oh, any last words, Kai? Thank you, Natasha, for helping us out.
Yeah, thank you, sister. Really
Shout out to
you
Mondo.
coming in last minute.
Some folks wanted to know they're like, who's that white woman?
Introduce yourself.
No, you folks,
Natasha has helped us with, a lot of projects that we did. She helped with the street closures and
For Indigenous Peoples Day, she does a lot of behind the scenes work for us, and we really appreciate her being a part of the team.
absolutely.
I love being behind the scenes in the sense like being an ally, but for me, it's just I feel very welcomed and very and blessed. I feel very honored and blessed. I truly do. The things I've gotten to experience and see and how powerful the community is, and to be welcomed after all of this harsh colonialism and things, and I just I think to myself, if we were just quiet, if the politicians, all this, were just quiet and we just listen to Indigenous, the medicine's here.
Yeah.
And it's so powerful. Like I've seen with my own eyes, and just that welcoming for me. And I just feel, I can't express myself, but I feel very, very blessed to, thank the Creator, I think, for bringing me around you folks. And
well, I mean, you've been very helpful, and you helped us get a few grants, and you're here with your laptop today, helping us get our podcast, going, and what I like about working with Natasha is that there's certain boundaries that she's not willing to get offended about, because she knows that we have to heal ourselves, and who are we to kind of say, we're not going to accept any help, If it wasn't for Natasha, I mean, Malinali would have closed year 2. And so we want to say thank you for that, grant that you help us get. And we're still struggling out here. We're still trying to figure this out for our people. And there are many people a lot of people got offended. Some people got offended that I gave a certificate to a police officer for Indigenous Peoples Day. And I, these people have to sign off on the city street thing. And I'm not ever trying to pledge my allegiance to any colonial structures that have oppressed, killed, or hurt my people. But I also know how to build relationships with people. I also know how not to be rude. I also know how to accept people's help when I need it. These are the things that I'm talking about that destroy racism and authoritarianism. There is no supremacy.
Right. Yeah, I don't think there's a black or a white, to have this black or white mentality of there's a set way of how to operate, or you have to conduct yourself to this one party that makes you this or that. I think it's really just being able to navigate the system and utilizing it, for the betterment of the community. I think, they played a crucial role in Indigenous Peoples Day. So I think, it's valid for us to acknowledge everybody who assisted. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, it's for the community, it's for the people. We want to be able to grow events, and it's we don't oppose anybody. I think what makes LA Natives, Malinali, and this whole movement is we accept and welcome everybody, and we're all growing and learning together.
Yeah.
On this journey,
and knowing that there are certain things that we do as a community privately, and there's things that we do generally. Mm-hmm. And as we work together and learn how to work with each other, because it always hasn't been flowers and roses with whoever we're dealing with, even when we're dealing with the street closures or colonial things that when we went to the city council meeting. Those are things that are unorthodox to the ways we used to do, because we used to just do it independently, not ask for any kind of funding from anyone, and it works for a little bit. But, we have to reach out as far as we can. And that's what we're doing with Malinali Superfoods, because we're being an effective resource in our low-income community, which is East Los Angeles, Whittier Boulevard. And we're just doing our best to try to affect and heal everyone, because no one will ever take that approach about, thinking negatively about someone who's trying to help. And that's the approach I took to closing the street. Putting a brick down and saying, look, Indigenous people can have safe events. Indigenous people can have non-alcoholic events, family events, educational events, and then the colonial structures that be kind of go, okay, well, we don't need to worry about those guys. Let's worry about these guys, and then how we meet and what we meet politically in terms of like the spiritual aspect of it. I mean, ceremonies are ceremonies. Those are invite only. I don't even get invited to every single ceremony. I don't even get invited to some ceremonies. Ceremonies are invite only. Pure hearts only. But when we're trying to affect our community just to live better, because there's some very interesting people that have just taken power. I don't want to call them powerful. I don't want to call them negative. I want to call them interesting, because as a person who's living in the wild, because the city is just a wild jungle to me, I understand what predators are now in the jungle. So that's where we are, man. It's starting to become real, this Trump presidency. For me, my opinion is that it's an authoritarian government. No tolerance, right? The borders czar said it himself. No tolerance. So if you think the borders czar is no tolerance, whatever other cabinet or things that he's building in his administration is going to be no tolerance as well. No tolerance is no tolerance, man. And so we need to be ready for that. What that means, you know, what does that mean for our brothers that don't have papers, who don't have green cards or visas to stay in this country? You know, what does that mean? Are they going to, and we don't know. We don't know until they start doing things. But I know that when Trump was in office last time, ICE was pretty off the hook. They were in almost every neighborhood trying to hunt someone down. You know, what are we going to do as a community to warn individuals that this is what's happening? This is where our creativity, our journalism, our independent journalism, even if it's just a phone, you know, you see somebody being harassed or being somebody taken away, we need to pull it out. We need to do a full report. You know, this is the age we're in, the information age. And when we bring out information, then colonial structures will have to start to crumble because a lot of their structures were built on lies. And those lies will come to light.
I do want to say that, you know, when I first met you folks, we did the Eagle and Condor Prophecy for the first Indigenous Peoples Day festival. Coming from up north, not that it's better, but there is more, you know, Indigenous Peoples Day, there's more events, there's more, and to see that there was nothing here, and then, you know, 3 years later, now you have, you know, more folks doing events, and I think you, Malinali, was the catalyst for that. And I see the movement and the positive movement, and, you know, in terms of like these structures, when I first started helping on some of the demonstrations and things up north, I have an event background, and I was like, oh, I'm going to help these folks. And I got humbled pretty quickly because I was looking and I'm like, oh no, these folks Indigenous folks have been doing events and gatherings forever, and how they honored the youth, and how they had the bear dance, and how they had the offerings to the people that spoke, and how they had the warriors that protected the people. And I see that what you're doing, creating safe space and, you know, being the warriors for women and children, and you know, platforming the youth and giving space, it's really, really important. And it's hard to navigate those systems. It's really hard to navigate the systems here. Like, you know, so I really respect your community, and, you know, I appreciate. And the fact that it's growing, the fact that, like, you know, the city council's now, like, trying to do more, declare, like you're affecting, what your community's doing is affecting and educating. And just what I'm seeing firsthand, and only in a couple years. So it's really important, the work that you folks do. And just to have this, like, you know, me not Indigenous, and I'm sorry to take up a lot more time. I don't like to do that, but I'll click on, and this is medicine for me. I'll listen to you folks and just be like, and with everything on social media, YouTube, all these things, it's just negative, divisiveness. And then I can tune into LA Natives, and I can learn, you know, like calming, and I can just, like how you folks are discussing issues in a powerful way, but in a non-aggressive way and non-colonial, and just, you know, it means a lot to me, and I really appreciate. I really, that's all I can say. I very much appreciate, and I
cool. Thank you for helping us today, and, you know, using your computer, and you know, taking the extra time in your day to learn the software so we can have Ally Natives today. It's important for us to understand that we need to, I have a commitment to this podcast. All those people in the chat, that George Cannon, Word First, all these individuals that are, you know, they chime in from the start to finish. They're putting comments start to finish. These guys, I don't care if it's 10 of them. I don't care if it's a million of them. It means a lot to come here and voice our opinion and share our understandings and our tools that we use to navigate through this current time. This is what we call community, you know? And community doesn't always mean that it has a certain face or a certain color. It's like community is those that want to gather together to defeat authoritarianism. Not defeat it, but navigate through it, dominate it. They can only do so much. They don't have one soldier for every person living on this earth. They don't have one gun for every person living on this earth. We have to tap into our collective power. Our collective power is what gives us strength and will always guide us during this time. So we'll see you next Wednesday. Tlazocamatli, Ometeo, Tonansi, Tonatu. So you just click on
Peace, familia.